As I got another rhyme, another rhythm for y'all to listen. I'm never quitting on my mission. I'ma roll with what I'm giving. Got some ambition, this new edition, filling positions. Looking at the void in myself and feeling what's missing. Better watch the way you going, better go in the right direction. In the moment you stressing, but you gon' be counting blessings. And I know that for certain. Keep on working, open curtains, haters swerving, cause they ain't ready for your final version. Whoa. I'm never gonna give up, fall down, I just gotta get up, yeah.
You're listening to the Tom Ficklin Show on WNHHLP 103.5 FM, your home for community radio.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning. Good morning, Harry. Good morning, Joy Burns. I have the fascinating and electric and committed and overworked, let's emphasize the word overworked, Joy Burns with us. Joy is going to kind of really bring to our attention and share and kind of reveal what it means to be a dedicated warrior in the struggle, but it's a joyous struggle as well. Specifically, Joy's going to share with us some information on an upcoming human rights essay contest, really a great opportunity, a significant opportunity for New Haven High School students from this essay contest standpoint, and she's going to tell us about that. It's the actual formal title is the Honorable Tony N. Harp Human Rights Essay Contest, and I've met Mayor Harp and her husband back in the 70s, and I love the opportunity to kind of just remind people of our first Black female mayor here in New Haven. And if you are curious, everybody, the N stands for Nathaniel. I'll just throw that in. I'm just saying. Also, Joy's going to share with us her involvement with the Amistad Committee in the sense of the Human Rights Day Universal Declaration Declaration of Human Rights. And the Amistad Committee is involved with that in their collaboration actually with the New Haven Peace Commission. We're going to talk about the topic of this essay contest. I'm sure you're waiting to know what that is. And it's a focusing on the life and civil rights work of the Honorable Constance Baker Motley. So important to kind of just recognize our heroes and sheroes here on the global planet, but particularly we can claim her here in our little town of New Haven. And we're going to talk about also Joy's work briefly with the Yale Study Group, which was kind of considering, revealing, investigating, researching what is these really worldwide white institutions, what is their obligation to know that they've really are in existence and have claimed their name to fame on the backs of what I call political economic captives, not slaves, but political economic captives. So Joy, let's kind of jump right in and talk about the Honorable Tony N. Harp Human Rights Essay Contest that's upcoming, how people can get involved. And I'd say people in terms of, yes, the high school students will write it, but we need parents and the community to support and to kind of encourage and to kind of lift up our students. So tell us about this Human Rights Essay Contest focusing on Constance Baker Motley.
Good morning, Tom. It's so great to be on your show. So perhaps folks have been driving around the city of New Haven around Christmas time and they saw the big banners over Temple Street or Whaley Avenue proclaiming Human Rights Day was December 10th. It was founded by the United Nations, and indeed, the most important thing that we wanted to promote were the principles involved in the UN Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And so this essay contest, this is the 7th or 8th year, I think, I'm not exactly sure which, but 7th or 8th year, that the Amistad Committee has had an essay contest for New Haven High School students, and that's 9th graders through 12th graders. There will be a first prize, a second prize, and a third prize in each grade. So we're not going to let the 9th graders compete with the 12th graders.
Good.
Important. And we're going to give a prize of $300, $200, and $100 book money, which hopefully you all can put towards your college educations.
Mm-hmm.
We're highlighting the life and the work of Constance Baker Motley, who grew up in New Haven, attended Hill House High School, and graduated in 1939. Her life, her contribution as an attorney with the NAACP legal defense fund in fighting for the rights of folks down in the South, in Mississippi and Alabama in
Mhm.
particular, in the late 1940s, 1950s, and early 1960s. And then she becomes the New York Borough President of Manhattan, and she
Yes.
also becomes a state senator in New York, and later a federal court judge. So quite a broad, expansive, and dedicated career to help folks.
And how will students get access to the application and criteria? What's kind of the process for the students to be involved in, and for the parents who are listening to remind their students, their sons and daughters, to kind of take advantage of this opportunity?
Okay, so you can go to our website, www.amistadcommittee.org. And on the first page of the website, you will see a link with the photograph of Constance Baker Motley. And when you click on the link, it will take you to the UN Declaration of Human Rights, so that you'll know what the declaration entails. And it will also take you to a bibliography, a list of books, and YouTube videos that show clips of Judge Motley talking about her life and her career, so that you'll have a list of resources. And then it also will, there's a guide that tells you how long the essay how long the essay can be, how many words, what kind of font we want it in, because we want to be able to read it easily. Um, and the kind of points that we want you to touch as far as her work and relating to um, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights.
I love this topic, and I love this endeavor. And as you mentioned, it's been in operation, the essay contest, for several years, because I want to say more recently we continue to hear the controversies about reading scores and students being absent from school, and just the plethora of challenges that are taking place in our educational institutions. Not to mention the fight at the end of the football game, the Elm Haven football game, and there was a recent fight between Bassick High School and Cross High School. So we hear so much negativity about our young people and their institutions, where they're going. So I just love this opportunity to kind of share that there's ways for us to kind of come together and to celebrate and heal, and engage in kind of really positive activity. I know in the past, Joy, there's been like an awards ceremony or a chance to kind of for people to come together. And obviously, COVID. I use the term COVID-23. We want people to say COVID-19. On the contrary, where it still is very present. But given this COVID-23 circumstance, do you still hope to possibly have an award ceremony as well?
Right now, we're planning for it to be in person. Last year, it was virtually. And so this year, we're hoping to have it in person. In the past, it was at the Hill House Field House. I think we're going to have a bit of a smaller space, but still, hopefully, a space that can fit about 200 people, the young people, their families, and hopefully folks from the community. Please do turn out to see us give these awards to these young people. We don't have a specific date and place yet, but we will be posting on our Facebook page and also on our website about that soon as well.
Again, yeah, I mean,
And Tom, can I just say something real quick?
no, you can't say anything else. I'm going to talk to you the next 45 minutes, and I won't even let you get a word in edgewise. But I'll be nice for the second. Go right ahead.
Um, I know that there are people who could say, well, how does Constance Baker Motley's life relate to young people in New Haven today? You know, especially those young people who feel really challenged right now about going to school and attending classes and studying. And Constance Baker Motley, when she was in high school, it was during the Depression, and she experienced poverty just as many of our students are experiencing now. And the challenge is it more important to work and to help your parents feed the family than it is to go to school? Those are all things that she faced. She was very determined. She wanted to be an excellent student. At 15 years old, she knew she wanted to go to college and become a lawyer.
Mm,
And so she set her goals. Meanwhile, her mom is telling her, honey, be realistic. You stand a better chance of becoming a hairdresser.
mm,
So in so many ways, her life is not that different than young people's lives today.
mhm, mhm. Very well put. It's really fascinating as I talk to young people, excuse me, in terms of what inspires them, because even this recent MLK celebration, for some young people, that's really ancient history. And as I talk to young folks, and if I think about, if you're, say, between 15 and 19, what recent heroes have you had to kind of latch on to? You and I had these pole stars in our life. Um, but the history is really so important, and for, as you say, to give now the students the opportunity to interpret Connie Baker's, to interpret her journey in their own framework. So I'm looking forward to the essays, and quite frankly, I'm going to impose upon you now publicly that maybe the one or two or three or four of with the winners, we can have them read their essays on an upcoming show. Uh, that we do,
Absolutely.
you know,
Absolutely.
we do actually broadcast on Mondays and Fridays at 11 o'clock. So they will be in school, but who knows, there could be a Monday or Friday during the school year that they're, during the school vacation, or maybe maybe their principal might allow them just to read for a few minutes, even while they're in school, or even in the class. So push me on that. You've heard me. I made the public declaration, and and you certainly feel free to mention to the winners that opportunity is available to them. Talk to me a little bit, Joy, about why you've been, so committed, passionate, involved with these issues, given your young life and your journey here in New Haven. When did you arrive in New Haven?
Hard to believe I came to New Haven when I was in my 30s. As a matter of fact, I came to New Haven 1991 to work with an AIDS project at the Cornell Scott Hill Health Center. And one of the people who I worked with was Toni Harp when she
Mm,
was the director of the Homeless Healthcare Project. And
mhm,
that's when I first met her. And I had the honor of going and speaking before her health committee when she was the chair of the health committee of the up in
go ahead.
Hartford,
Mhm,
at the state legislature, and
right.
talking about AIDS care and talking about the funding for AIDS. So that's how I got my introduction to New Haven. It's so interesting because that's when I also found out that New Haven is such a small town. I would meet someone and they'd say, "Oh yes, my aunt so and so told me about you." So
Mhm,
you
mhm.
meet one family member and you've almost met everyone else as well.
Let's linger on Mayor Harp, and when I see her, I still refer to her in the present tense. Nothing to disparage against our current mayor, Justin Elliker, but I guess when I see her, Mayor Harp kind of comes to my brain automatically. That's what comes out of my lips. And I think our good friend Al Marder will say, as he has said publicly, that the Amistad statue and other things would not have happened without Mayor Harp's involvement when she was in state senator. And so you're involved with the Amistad Committee. Let's lift up the Amistad Committee for a little bit as well, um, because you mentioned we are a small town, but we're on the international map. We are a small town, but we are on the international map, and this is separate from what happened in 1701 with Yale kind of coming to town. But we are on the map. So tell me about your involvement with the Amistad Committee.
So I joined the Amistad Committee in May of 2020. So it was during the pandemic. I had the privilege of going to Al Marder's house and being interviewed with him in person. And our first project that I had any interaction with was actually the William Lanson statue that is now on Lock Street.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so since then, certainly this has been one of my major projects. This is my second year working on the essay contest. and Human Rights Day promotion. And I am so pleased that now we get to work on a whole group of projects that are related to amplifying the life and the history of Constance Baker Motley and what she did as a young person in New Haven, because she was an activist. We have a whole group of young activists today, Students for Educational Justice, and she belonged to a similar organization that was created for young Black youth. This group of young people especially wanted to address poverty.
Mhm.
And the Amistad Committee, of course, there's the statue of Cinque, there's the ship Discovering Amistad, which sometimes is docked at Long Wharf. There's the Connecticut Freedom Trail, which
Mhm.
has sites all over the state of Connecticut, which was founded also by the Amistad Committee.
And I really appreciate your listing that. Just reminding people that yes, in about 10 days or so, we'll have the month. Folks will call it Black History Month. Start off as Black History Week. When I was with the inner city newspaper from 1990 to 2000, I would kind of refer to February as African Genesis Month, just to kind of remind people that we have these words that are really symbolic and just point toward our legacy and our devotion and our existence in the planet from the beginning of time. I digress um, a little bit. You know, Joy, when I see you there, you mentioned, when did you mention to me? Oh, the Witness Stones Project. You mentioned to me a few years ago about your involvement with the Witness Stones Project. Throw that in because I think it's all connected with Connie, with Amistad, with Cinque, with the Freedom Schooner. What's this Witness Stones thing about? We hear so much about tearing down the so-called Confederate statues. Those are like treason edifices, as far as I'm concerned, and then resurrecting and replanting and correcting history. But the Witness Stones Project, I really like that in terms of Connecticut's role in this regard. What has been your involvement in that regard?
I'm one of the researchers for the Witness Stones Project. I get to go into the archives. My favorite archives, of course, is the New Haven Museum, the Whitney Library, where I go and hold primary documents in my hand. This past Saturday, I was holding a journal that was written in the 1790s. So I get to hold the documents that people signed. I get to hold a document that has a signature of William Lanson on it
Mm,
or Simeon Jocelyn. And the Witness Stones Project, what they do is they commemorate the lives and experiences of enslaved people who lived and worked in New Haven, and also throughout Connecticut. And indeed, now they're spreading out to New Jersey, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and hopefully even to North Carolina very soon.
And but tell me more. Don't leave us hanging. That's just the
And
headline.
and so if you go to the Party Morris House out in Morris Cove, um, by the front door, there is a stone that's in the ground, and it has the name of an enslaved woman. Her name was Pink, and she lived and worked in that house and was able to purchase her own freedom. And she had a child, and she also had a husband. And so we elevate those stories, and we work with school students, usually middle school, sometimes high school students. They write poems, they write stories. Their teachers show them copies of these primary documents that are maybe census data, maybe a list of addresses where the enslaved person lived once they became free, or details about their lives. And the young people write poems, they write
Mm,
brief plays about these enslaved people. So they bring their lives, bring their lives back to life. And also, we're saying their names again.
mm,
We're acknowledging that these folks existed. When we walk around the built environment of Connecticut towns and New Haven, we don't see many things that tell us that in the 1680s, a Black woman walked these streets or a Black
mhm,
man walked these streets.
mhm.
And so we need to put that back into the landscape.
And Joy, I'm going to ask you that might sound like a simple question. The question is, why is it important? And I say that, I mean, obviously I'm in 3000% agreement with you, but there is this, unfortunately, and it saddens me some of the parts of the day, that there are folks saying, well, so what? So what? I mean, okay, big deal. And, I don't want to say that that's only white people or only Black people, but there is that you have either positive response and you see a negative response. What do I mean? You have today in Florida, the governor saying that advanced placement courses cannot be, there's a particular advanced placement course on Black history that he's resisting. So this neo-Confederate Part 5, Part 10 struggle is often so sobering, but I want to give you a chance again to kind of say why it's important for this, things like the Witness Stones Project, like the Amistad Committee, like Lansing. I want to talk about Lansing in a second. And Singay, why is that important from your standpoint?
Mm.
And obviously Connie Baker Motley.
It's the way Dennis Culloden, the director of the Witness Stones Project, describes it as, for white students, it's like looking through a window. So when white students look through the window, they are able to see what the lives of Black people in the colonial times was like and get an understanding of what other people's lives were like, other than the famous people, the founding fathers, the people whose stories we can just recite off the top of our heads. For young Black people, it's looking through a mirror. They're able to see themselves reflected back. When a certain person who we'll just call President number 45.
Yeah, well, I call him 145th, so go ahead.
Okay, 145th.
Not even the total, just 145th.
145th was in office. There were many people who were stressed out and were wondering, how are we ever going to get back to where we want to be? And when I read about the lives of these people, it tells me about how they navigated adversity and challenges. It tells me how they kept going, how they kept their spirits up, how they were able to take care of themselves, make sure their families were taken care of, and create a community. The churches that we see today are because these people were so invested in creating a community, staying together, making sure that folks had a spirit inside themselves that would sustain them through all the adversity that they faced.
A little more. You're on a roll. Give me one more addendum.
And I think, the other thing was they didn't stay in one place. There, Asa Jeffries, who was a member of a family of ministers and preachers in Middletown. He starts out in Middletown. He marries a woman, Lois Tritton, in New Haven in 1832. Somehow, for whatever reason, I'm not exactly sure. I think it might have had to do with the deaths of their children and just that kind of loss. Their marriage doesn't work out. He goes and says, I'm going to go to Iowa and get a piece of land and have a farm. And he dies in Wisconsin. You read some of the stories of folks, they're freed. One man goes and participates in the California Gold Rush in 1849. So people didn't say, this is my lot and this is what I'm stuck with. They had vision, they had imagination, and they saw that they wanted to make their lives better, their children's lives better, and they went and they explored and they did it. And those are the same kinds of things that we can do today. Young people can have visions, create businesses, employ people in their community, and we see that happening, which is such a beautiful thing.
We're talking to Joy Burns, and Joy is sharing so much wisdom with us, but in particular, just reminding people and providing the opportunity about something upcoming called the Honorable Tony M. Harp Human Rights Essay Contest, featuring focusing on Constance Baker Motley. And again, for someone that might have just tuned in, Joy, how can they find out more information about the essay contest?
Please go to the Amistad Committee's Facebook page or Instagram page, as well as our website, www.amistadcommittee.org. And you will see a photograph of Constance Baker Motley. Underneath that is a link, and you hit that button, and then a description of the essay contest, which is for 9th graders through 12th graders, will appear, as well as the guidelines and a list of resources, books and articles and YouTube videos of Judge Motley and interviews with her and her talking about her life and her career.
Excellent. So when you mentioned the early sojourners and pioneers, my mind flashed back to about a few months ago. Former Alder Steve Winter and Ann Robinson, came before the Board of Alders in terms of Lucretia. Are you so much? Do you want to say a little bit about Lucretia?
So at the beginning of the pandemic, there were a couple of times when I found myself standing on a corner at Orange and Elm because I needed to just have a sense of the ancestors. And standing on that corner gave me a sense of the presence of Lucretia, who was the first Black woman who came to New Haven as an enslaved person, I think in 1639.
Yep.
And Anne Robinson has labored for so many years to bring the story of Lucretia into the foreground. And finally, at last, there's going to be a monument or some notation, or maybe it's Lucretia's Corner, that's going to be there at the corner of Elm and Orange, commemorating that she lived there.
And even something, that's just so, that sends, joyous chills up my spine just for, as you say that. And as you say, hopefully for some young people to feel that, or at least to stand on the corner. I want to ask you kind of a philosophical, psychological question, and bear in mind,
Oh dear.
when I ask the question, well, you've alluded to it somewhat, but bear in mind that the shows are available worldwide. So all of your friends and fan club members, wherever they might be located on the planet, will hear your answer. But I want you to, you just referenced standing in a place and needing to feel or secure or invoke or embody inspiration. Say a little bit more about that. And I'm not trying to put you on the spot, and I don't want people to think that you're, a mystic or a sage, but you just referenced the need for inspiration. And I just wanted to give you a chance to kind of elaborate a little bit more about that.
Well, my favorite source of inspiration right now certainly is the William Lanson statue. After it was unveiled and the crowd had walked away, I actually, his arm is kind of out on his hip, and so you can hook your hand through his arm and put your hand on his hand. And I did that because I wanted that sense of connection to such a powerful and profound ancestor. William Lanson, first of all, he was one of the wealthiest Black men in early New Haven. He got paid $22,000 to build the Farmington Canal, which was a lot of money. I'm sorry, to build Long Wharf, to create Long Wharf. And there had been like 5 other companies that had gone and tried to do it before him. And he was the one who was able to successfully do it. He employed Black people, white people. It's like, if you can do the work, I'm employing you. So he had a large force that worked for him. And then he successfully creates this harbor at Long Wharf. And the remnants of that are still present today. And he was attacked, and his reputation was sullied because was trashed, because the white power brokers in New Haven were actually threatened by his A, popularity, and B, wealth. And believe me, he got paid less than the white people would have been paid, and still got $22,000, which was a lot of money. The other place where you can encounter the built environment that he created is the Farmington Canal, very close to the to where his statue is, near Grove Street Cemetery. And his life tells me about how people persevere,
Mhm,
you know,
mhm,
and find a way out of no way,
mhm, mhm,
which is one of those skills that Black people have always had. That, you know, I am the queen of workarounds. Okay, put something in front of me that is an impasse, and I'm gonna find a way to go over it, under it, around it, or watch out right through it.
mhm,
And
mhm.
that's what our ancestors, that's that skill that our ancestors gave us, was make a way out of no way.
I so admire and appreciate and accept your response. But why for you? Why what's the stimulus or the uh uh the exaltation? Why is this in terms of your personal path? Why do you need this to link, to have a sense that you can be in connection and receive messages from our sojourners?
When I was in elementary school, I think it was second grade, that was when I was bused into a school that was predominantly white. And my teacher said to me, "You have no history."
Mm, mm, mm,
Now, my mother was one of those Black moms who, you know, every year, I grew up in New York City, so every year my mom went to the Carver Savings Bank and
mm,
got one of those calendars from the Carver Savings Bank. And each month there was the story of a life of some Black person, whether it was W.B. Du Bois, Langston Hughes, Zora Neale Hurston. So my mom made sure that that I learned about Black history. She didn't count on my teachers in the school teaching me. She taught me herself. And I think certainly in my career, there were many times when I was the only Black person in the room.
mm, mm, mm,
And certainly church community and family gave me a sense of who I am.
mhm,
And in New Haven, when you walk around the city, there's so much that tells you about Yale, and about who the founders of New Haven were: Sherman Avenue, Kimberly Avenue, Whitney Avenue,
Hillhouse Avenue.
and not a lot that tells you about the indigenous people who were here and the Black people who were here. And I want to change that experience for young people.
Mm,
I want young people to know that the people who built Connecticut Hall on Yale's campus were enslaved Black men, and free Black men as well.
mhm, mhm, mhm,
And that they didn't just build a little bit of it, that they built the majority of it, three-quarters of it. When you one of my research projects, is I actually want to find out how much of the original stones are left, of the bricks were left.
mhm,
Probably not because of acid rain, but when you touch those bricks, you're touching something that they touched.
mhm,
And those bricks were made, historically, bricks in that time were made by enslaved people, and sometimes even enslaved children. And you'll see little indentations of fingers. And when you put your fingers on those bricks, you're touching something that they touched
mhm,
over 200 years ago.
mm. Just as an aside, there's a new monument in Boston that Hank Willis Thomas, in terms of MLK and his wife, and you know, it's controversial, but I've been reading a little bit more about it, and he speaks to just what you mentioned, but because he wanted to illustrate the touching opportunity of, you know, touching their arms, their legs, their arms, their fingers, their hearts. So um, that's fascinating. In terms of the Amistad Committee, you mentioned that you guys are also considering planning speculating about maybe a spoken word contest, highlighting the
Woohoo!
spotlight. Tell us about that. Because again,
So,
Mhm.
so one of my ideas was to create a spoken word contest, and that's another way to bring the life of Constance Baker Motley present into today. So young people will say, well, how is her life relevant to me? How can I relate to her in 2023?
Yes.
And so I think we'll throw down a bit of a challenge and throw it back at the young people and say, okay, here's some literature, here's some books and articles and things, interviews and videos about her life. And let's see you create a piece that's going to educate your peers about the life and the work of Constance Baker Motley. And then we're going to play it at
Mhm.
the winners, the spoken word, the rap. We're going to play them at every event that we have so that everyone will remember why young people, why her life is so relevant to young people today.
And you'll record it and videoed it, and I can play it on my shows, from time to
Absolutely.
time. I'm my ego. I still have an ego, right? I mean, I try to be spiritual, but I am into promoting the show. But hopefully, the Tom Ficklin show has a relevance for folks as well. To take me about the. Go ahead, please.
I want to say one thing,
No,
and
no, you
that is
can't. You can't.
another
You
thing
can't. You
about the
can't say.
Lansing
You can't.
statue.
You can't say one thing. You can say 10 things about the Lansing statue if you want, but not one.
All
More
right,
than one.
10 things about the Lansing statue. So, the Lansing statue, unlike all of those Confederate monuments, is at the same level as us. So he's not above us, he's not exalted, he's not some being that was greater than us. He's he's on the same level as us. He's just like us. And that's what's so important about the relatability for young people when they look and experience his statue. The Sinkay's statue, of course, is large, and Sinkay's story is larger than life. You go to Sierra Leone. My friends in the Amistad Committee have told me about their travels to Sierra Leone and how there are murals about
Mhm.
Sinkay, and Sinkay is on the money, the currency
Mm,
in Sierra Leone. So Sinkay is larger than life and everywhere. Um, and yet, all of them, they walked these streets, they lived here, and they were
yes,
just like us.
yes, yes. Uh, let's go to Pennington for a second. I'm on the Yale alumni
Mm,
board and graduated from MDiv in 1975. And just so as you know, William Barber is now the Divinity School has kind of recruited him to kind of bring his expertise and his prophetic voice to folks. Well, I mean, he's done it for 20, 30 years, but it's glad to have him connected with the Divinity School. But talk about Pennington for a second.
so the work of the charge of the Yale and Slavery Working Group, which I'm a member of, was to bring the stories of the Black uh, men and women who lived and worked and attended Yale, bring their stories into the forefront. And one of the important stories, of course, was James W. Pennington, who attended the Yale Divinity School. He was not allowed to speak in class. He had to sit in the back. He was not allowed to go to the library, and he received no credit for any of the work that he did during the time that he was there. The Yale and Slavery Working Group, one of the stories that we brought into the forefront was that in 1831, faculty members, Yale alumni, founders of the Yale Law School, all came together and decided that they were going to kill the opportunity to build the first Black university in the city of New Haven.
Yes,
And the vote was 700 to 4. So
yes,
they were successful, they killed it. So unfortunately, the first HBCU could have been in New Haven and it
yeah,
wasn't. And the Pennington Fellowship, um, Peter Salovey announced it in December. so pretty recently, will give students who are already enrolled in New Haven Promise the opportunity to attend historically Black colleges and universities, and they'll receive a $20,000 scholarship. So this is going to help Black students to attend colleges and universities that support their education and well-being.
And I so enjoy the way that you described that the process of civic engagement, politics, influencing people's opinion, and staying the course. We hear this term reparations a lot, and sometimes it gets people perceiving on the macro level, although the state of California is moving quite quickly in this regard. But I love the way that you just, whether it's reparations or whatever word you want to use, they had the Pennington Scholarship as one of the current results, but also there'll be other benefits, I'm sure. The people understanding that legacy and opportunities must be shared moving forward to the best of our ability. So I'm so glad you said that. Joy, on your Facebook page, you have or an email,
Oh, dear.
not your Facebook page rather, but the email that you shared with me. I want to read you have a quote from Albert Camus, and it's, "In the midst of winter, I finally found that there was in me an invincible summer. In the midst of winter, I finally found there was in me an invincible summer." Talk a little bit about that.
Oh, now you're taking me back to high school. That was one of those posters that I had in my bedroom when I was a teenager. And well, I'm one of those, my family was from the Caribbean. My mom's mother and father came from Antigua and Barbados. And so, which is much closer to the equator. And so they got lots of sun. And I get winter depression. I'm
Mm,
one of those people with less sun. I just want to hibernate and sleep. And that poem's always reminded me that that the summer's coming, that the sun will come back. And I use light therapy. So
mhm,
wherever you go, when you see me in the wintertime, there's some bright light shining in my face that just kind of helps to lighten my spirit and lift me out of that depression. Um, and it's such a trip.
mm,
So I feel so much better.
mhm,
Exercise also helps.
mhm, mhm. It seems to me, just as you were talking, that one of the committee's goals, because I hear a lot about young people being depressed.
Mm,
I hear a lot anecdotally and directly. And you and I won't ask you publicly how old you are, but I've been around the track a few times, and it's interesting, it's kind of and challenging. And let me be frank, sad when I hear the young folks talk about the state of their mental health. And I've talked to a lot of young people, a lot meaning at least 20 over the last 4 months since September, about the fights in schools
mm,
and how people are and the triggers. I mean, you and I perhaps went to school when you had some sort of legitimate reason for a fight, or you made up a legitimate reason, but they're talking about just tapping a person on the shoulder or bumping into a person accidentally. There's things that are triggering their angst or their anxiety or their behavior outlets. So I see this essay contest to be just one opportunity for folks to kind of rally around it and work on their mental health. So say a little bit about mental health, if you would.
Oh, now you're tapping into my physician assistant work thing. So
That's
I
why you
have
get
no
paid the big bucks, Joy. Hey, come on, let's lay the cards on the table. I waited for 45 minutes to let people know how you're making these big bucks. We only have 10 more minutes to go, so you can handle it.
Woo! Okay. So I I have no difficulty admitting that I'm 65 years old. So that's number one. Um so just like Constance Baker Motley, it's so easy to think that your current circumstances are going to be what your future circumstances are. and indeed, when she was a high school student, and what was happening was they were going out and looking for jobs and work, and there was no work to be had. Um, and she was uh, the odds of her going to college at that time were pretty much nil to zip,
Mhm, mhm.
because her parents couldn't afford to send her. And while she could be accepted, there was no university or college that was going to give her enough of a scholarship for her to attend.
And a woman at that, let's not neglect the fact that a
Right.
woman at that.
And then you're a woman, and girls are supposed to stay home. At that time, we're supposed to stay home, get married, uh, work for your family, and have children. And so young people today, they may receive different messages, but they receive messages nonetheless about how they're supposed to act, the way they're supposed to look, how they're supposed to behave, and even how what they're supposed to feel. And we feel the way we feel. There's not a lot there sometimes there isn't a lot of spaces that give you permission to be who you are in the moment with whatever emotion is arising. And so I think that's certainly another one of the challenges that young people are meeting today. And maybe they need a grown up to say, this isn't going to last forever. You're going to have different feelings. Tomorrow's a different day. So, whatever it is you're feeling, it's going to change.
Mm, mm,
And sometimes that's enough. Or sometimes what you need is one of the gifts that I had was going to my grandmother's house and sitting down and having her cook something for me and give me a hug.
mhm,
And
mhm.
sometimes you just need that person who's gonna show you some love, and I hope that our young people have that. I hope that there is that adult in their life who will show them some love, go for a walk with them, and listen to them talk about how they feel, or call them up on the phone, have a check-in. "How you doing?" Sometimes that's all they need.
Indeed, indeed. Just as you were speaking, I want to give a shout out to older person Honda Smith in the West Rock area, because she has a place called the Shack, and she's really providing a lot of that uh, substitute. I wouldn't say substitute parent, but that mature, nurturing, and loving environment for folks, and particularly for young people. And I hope that Honda's uh, Shack, I'm going to call it an institution, can be replicated throughout the city. Joy, we have about 8 more minutes, and
Woo!
give folks a plug. No, don't. Is that because you can't wait to get off, or you've just enjoyed the experience so much you wanted to shout, et cetera, et cetera. Um,
Always
but
a pleasure to talk to you, Tom.
yeah, sure. Nice, nice. A little late in the response, but still, you did get it in there. Let people know how they can kind of share and participate and encourage young people to take advantage of this essay contest, the Honorable Tony and Harp Human Rights Essay Contest, spotlighting the life of Judge Francis Bacon Motley. How can folks kind of reach out and find out about it?
So definitely please go to the Amistad Committee's Facebook page or our Instagram page. There you'll find links and information about the essay contest, as well as our website, www.amistadcommittee.org. There's a photograph of Constance Baker Motley, and there's also a button that you can press that will send you to a list of resources and the guidelines for the essay contest. Um, Ask in your schools. We have posters, and we've spoken with school principals and guidance
Good.
counselors in Hill House and Cross, at ESOM, and the
Yeah.
Business Academy,
Mhm.
co-op, um, high school
Career.
community
Mhm.
career, yes. And so we're really trying to get the word out. And if you need to talk to one of us, then there's an info box, info@amistadcommittee.org. You can message us, and one of us will give you a call and we'll talk to you about it as well. We'd be happy to talk to you about it.
Right. About 5 more minutes. So again, as the spirit moves you and things come across your mind, Joy, kind of chip in. I was intrigued to hear about when you shared some background information with me, and you mentioned the Human Rights Day, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights with from the UN, and then linking with the Amistad Committee and linking with the New Haven Peace Commission. I mean, so talk about that. We haven't really spotlighted the New Haven Peace Commission, and that this is something that I'm particularly glad that we have the existence of the committee. I'm an older person, as I might have mentioned, and we have some new people that have come before us that are now younger people that are involved with the Peace Commission. And I know that we kind of bring that infusion of new blood is always so important. But New Haven Peace Commission, what does that mean to you?
Uh, the the Peace Commission, one of the recent things that they did was they had a reading of Martin Luther King's speech that he read at Riverside Church that was against the
Yes.
Vietnam War.
Yes.
They had a rereading of that speech. And they've also been at the New Haven flagpole to commemorate when the bombing of Hiroshima,
Yes.
when nuclear bombs were dropped on a um, Japanese city that led to the end of World War II. And so they remind us of what happens to people when we do things like drop nuclear bombs on them. You know, the number of lives that were lost. Um, and let's see, I'm also thinking, and so for the Peace Commission, Human Rights Day reminds us of many of the values that we share. I remember being in New Haven when undocumented people needed IDs, and
Mhm.
the city of New Haven decided to create a program so that undocumented people could have an ID, which, you know, is a way of validating their presence.
Yes.
They were here, and that's one of the tenets of the Declaration of Human Rights is that people have a right to asylum. They have a right to become parts of a community. They have a right to an education. Um, they have a right to not be unlawfully arrested or incarcerated or imprisoned. They have a right to counsel. You know, they have a
Mhm.
right to appropriate representation. These are all things that are issues that are occurring in New Haven today. You know, they have a right to be treated with respect if
Yes.
they are arrested.
And I know the commission has also planted trees throughout New Haven from time to time, just to, again, just indicate that we
Oh,
can,
yes.
yeah,
And there's also the memorial that's on Whaley Avenue um,
indeed, indeed.
by Edgewood Park.
Mhm. Uh, just before we conclude, and I really, again, although this is not February, Black History is a 24/7, 365 endeavor. So I really appreciate you reminding people of that. When you were talking about the United Nations, my mind flipped back to the role of Ralph Bunche, Bunche. And there's a
Mhm.
new book out, by the way, on Ralph's his legacy and his life. And I really urge people to kind of, we had these controversies that went on in the Middle East even today, but Ralph gave it a shot. He gave it a shot in terms of creating peace on earth in 1948, 1950, 1951. So check out there's a new book on Ralph Bunche's life. Joy, we have 30 seconds. Any last thoughts or comments or accusations of my interview style? I mean, whatever you want to do.
Constance Baker Motley grew up in New Haven. She graduated from Hill House in 1939. She spoke truth to power, went to a meeting with Clarence W. Blakesley and said, the reason why Black people don't go to the Q House is because it's managed by a group of white men from Yale.
Mm,
And because she spoke truth to power, he offered her a full scholarship to undergrad and to law school.
mm,
And that was what changed her life.
tremendous, tremendous. Joy, thank you. You've been listening to Joy Burns. We want to have her back again. We're going to possibly have some of the students come
The
back.
winners.
The winners rather. And we don't have to restrict it. There might be some folks that might have come in second place or third place or fourth place, and we can kind of share the wealth with them actually throughout the year. Joy, thank you so much. Harry, thank you. This is the Tom Ficklin Show, and that's a wrap, everybody. We'll talk to you soon. Be well.
This is Harry Droz, and you're listening to WNHHLP 103.5 FM, New Haven.
As I got another rhyme, another rhythm for y'all to listen. I'm never quitting on my mission. I'ma roll with what I'm giving. Got some ambition, this new edition, filling positions. Looking at the void in myself and feeling what's missing. Better watch the way you going, better go in the right direction. In the moment you stressing, but you gon' be counting blessings. And I know that for certain. Keep on working, open curtains, haters swerving, cause they ain't ready for your final version. Whoa. I'm never gonna give up, fall down, I just gotta get up, yeah. Cause this is my road,